Hello, my name is Anton Sakharov. I'm running for governor of Washington State. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. So you're running for governor. What kind of job experience would you be bringing to this position?
Well, I'm bringing vast experience from private business. I've been in high-tech program management career for over 13 years. I bring in bachelor's in finance and master's degree in organization and project management. And I strongly believe that the governor of the state is really someone who makes the trains run on time instead of being a political hack that we currently have today in office. And I hope to bring in real experience managing budgets, managing teams, managing projects. And I believe this is what our residents of Washington State really need.
What made you decide to run for governor?
Well, I made a decision to run for governor because I couldn't sit and watch what's happening in Washington State. I'm actually an immigrant. I was born in the Soviet Union, where I personally witnessed socialism. And I came here as a Jewish refugee with my parents when I was still a kid. And love America, love what the country stands for, was able to reach the American dream. And when I saw what's happening within Washington State and how we're moving closer and closer towards socialism, especially in Seattle, where we have a city council who's an open socialist, I couldn't sit and watch on the sidelines and decided that I have to put up a fight. I have to put up a fight for my kids because I don't want my kids to be immigrants themselves as I was. And thought, the one way of fighting is running for office and getting elected to represent the people of Washington State.
And I hope you'll forgive this kind of naive sounding question, but why is socialism bad?
Well, socialism is bad because ultimately socialism promises things for free, which we all love. I mean, it's hard to argue against free things. The problem is, in order to achieve those things, sooner or later, the government actually has to take control over the citizens. There's no way around it. And we already see things that are creeping in, things like minimum wage. On the surface, minimum wage sounds great. The problem is minimum wage is good for some people, but it's bad for business owners, small business owners. We have rent control, same thing, where small businesses who own property and renting it out are now told that you can't earn more than that. And that's exactly what happened in the Soviet Union within socialism, where government told you, to the point where what's your maximum square footage that you're supposed to have, how many loaves of bread are you supposed to consume per month. And it got to the point where they were controlling every single point in their lives, people's lives. And that's why it's bad. It leads to government control, ultimately, where one party becomes the only party. A lot of people say, well, we're not going to go to that type of socialism. We're going to be the democratic socialism. Well, not many people know. Soviet Union had elections. People voted. There was only one party on the ballot. And you didn't have a choice. And your opinion didn't matter because that one party always got elected. And that's what it's going to lead to if we have socialism in this country.
So probably one of our biggest issues right now is this whole COVID pandemic. If you were governor, how would you have handled it differently?
I think the biggest difference as governor, I would have never made a decision to select which businesses are essential, which ones are not. I think this is the biggest blunder that occurred. All businesses are essential because that's what they are. People are working, they own private business, and they have a right to stay in business. We do have a Fifth Amendment that protects that right. And what I would have done is let all businesses open, but practice safety, practice social distancing. I don't even mind wearing a mask if it makes sense. What I don't like is the mask mandate came in 5 months after the pandemic started, which means it's not really made to help us. It was made as a political statement, and that's a difference. I'm thinking about the real effect of what's happening to the citizens and being a representative of every citizen in Washington State, not just a select group.
So if you're elected, you're going to be having to deal with this kind of economic fallout of what's happened in 2020. How do you see that?
Absolutely. I made a statement several times that the biggest point of me running right now is going to be the economic recovery for Washington State after this pandemic ends, and I'm planning to tackle on at numerous ways. In terms of budget, I agree that we will need to cut the budget. I propose a 10% across the board, except law enforcement. I propose that we cut regulations to allow small businesses to function again. Many people don't know that for many small businesses, they need to file paperwork at the state level, at the county level, at the city level, just to function. And I think this is so much bureaucracy that is actually hurting the businesses. So we need to cut those regulations to allow small businesses to freely function, open, and stay in business and thrive. I also want to bring in new businesses that don't exist today in Washington State, and that could be through incentives or special economic zone. But that's the way we can replenish our budget, is instead of taxing the people, we could actually bring in new companies that don't exist today. And that's what I intend to do.
Another really big issue that everyone is very aware of is the issues of police violence. Do you have any opinions about that? I mean, we keep on seeing these videos that, are making a lot of people very upset.
Well, it's a very complex issue. Unfortunately, we're being manipulated. And again, with someone who's an immigrant who lived through political manipulations and propaganda, the biggest difference between those folks who lived through socialism and those who didn't, those who lived in socialism knew that they were lied to, versus those that didn't don't know. Yes, there is violence. It's across the board. Yes, are there bad cops? Absolutely. But to claim that all police officers are bad, that they're all violent, is nonsense. I can compare it to the police that were, the militia that was in the Soviet Union. They all took bribes. They all let criminals out while the ordinary folks got hurt. And we can't have the same situation here, where we create an atmosphere where this occurs. That's why I strongly support police officers. I strongly believe that what they're doing is great for our communities. Now, there's ways to safeguard if we're worried about police violence. Let's mandate a police camera on every single police officer that's running all the time. But to say that, we'll defund the police, and we saw what happened in downtown Seattle with CHOP. I mean, we had two weeks of no police presence, and we had several murders and multiple shootings. To me, that's unacceptable. We live in the best country in the world. We live in a home of Amazon, Microsoft, yet we have criminals running around and hurting businesses, hurting people. I think we need to say what it is. What it is we have several groups that say that there's police violence and they are against the police officers. But yet, as soon as we pull away the police officers from that area, we see criminal activity spike through the roof, and that's unacceptable. It's unsafe for anyone. And I think we need to move past this talk about defunding the police and talk about the real needs, which is we are allowing criminal activity on the streets, which is hurting our communities. It's hurting everyone.
You talked about lies being told to the public. Would you mind elaborating on that?
I mean, there's definitely propaganda that's occurring in the media. We're talking about the police violence. We're talking about systemic racism. Again, as an immigrant and a Jewish refugee who experienced, the push from the government, where my father was told that he wasn't going to be hired because he's Jew. That's racism. That's systemic racism. We don't have that in the United States. I believe America is the only country in the world where any immigrant from any background can come in, move to this country, learn the culture, learn the language, and be successful. And to claim that we have some kind of a systemic issue is not true. Are there racists? Absolutely. They're everywhere in every country. But to claim that it's systemic is not true. It's throwing us, in the wrong direction instead of focusing on the right problems that we need to fix in our state.
So 2020 has been a very monumental year. And if you're elected, how would you try to build bridges and build people together?
Well, I think number one, and this is my message, is running as a Republican supporter of Trump. At the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We want safety for our kids. We want prosperity for all. And we just want common sense solutions. I don't think there's anything radical that what I'm proposing. I want safe streets. I want my kids to be safely going to school. I want them to get the best education. I want every single citizen in our state to thrive, to earn great income. So that's why I'm a big supporter of small businesses. I think we need to move past this political talk where we talk and we throw words that mean, for one group means one thing, for another group means another thing, and actually manage the state. We have thousands of people sleeping on the streets, and that has not been solved by the current administration. In fact, it's almost doubled under the current administration. We have people who are doing hard drugs in the open, which I consider to be unacceptable in this day and age. There's people who are actually being hurt right now, and none of the solutions that are being proposed by the current governor has actually helped that to resolve. I'm actually saying let's put down our foot and say we need to fix this. For example, I'm calling out, let's cut homelessness by 90% in 3 years. Is it going to be hard? Yes, absolutely. But without that hard goal, we're never going to get to a reduction in homelessness. And again, it's unacceptable that we have huge corporations in our state, yet we have so many people sleeping on the streets. And we just need to acknowledge, why do we have so many people on the streets? It's not because of high cost of living. There's absolutely other reasons for it. We just need to be transparent, the reasons why, and actually tackle this problem instead of doing the political speech that the current governor does.
Well, as governor, how would you reduce homelessness?
Well, I think number one, we have to acknowledge that we have we're like a magnet where we're allowing people who are sleeping on the streets to continue to sleep on the streets. What we need to do is we need to tackle the true needs, which is there's absolutely people who lost their jobs, who lost their houses and ended up on the street. Those people need direct help by putting them in some permanent housing, retraining, getting back into the society where they can start earning money and paying back for the housing that they live in. There's also other people who have absolutely drug addiction, and we need to acknowledge that this is true. Those people need help. We have people who have mental health issues. Those people need help. It's not compassion to have those people continue sleeping on the streets. So what we need to do is acknowledge that this is not normal. We need to figure out a way, how do we, given the expense of living today in our state, how do we solve this problem, right? Throwing $1 billion, what we're exactly doing today, into this problem, and it hasn't solved a thing. I say let's use that money to actually build cheaper housing in other parts of the Washington state, but have programs within the state that have a direct responsibility to lower the number. So, for example, if an agency is handing out free lunches and its job is just to hand out free lunches, guess what? They're always going to hand out free lunches. I'm saying even that type of agency needs to have a true goal, which is reduce the count of homelessness. And if their goal is not that, they're never going to be in a position where they're helping the people to get off the streets, because all they're doing is handing out free lunches. So all I'm proposing is to have every single state agency have a true goal, like in private business, where they're striving to reduce homelessness to zero and doing all they can to actually help the people get off the streets. As a leader, as a governor, I will push those goals onto every single state agency, and also partner up with private businesses, including healthcare and housing, to get people off the street. Ultimately, what America is good for is providing an opportunity to be successful, not giving something for free and keeping people unsuccessful on the streets. And that's what we have today. We have people receiving help, but they're still on the streets, and we need to get them off the streets immediately.
You mentioned your support for the president. Why do you support Trump?
I think the reason why I support Trump is first, I think what he's standing for is actually, if you go past kind of all the media biases and you actually listen to what he's saying and all of his actions been all about how do we make sure the lives in America are better. Everyone is successful in America, and I think it's we have this political theater where we get a lot of this marks that he's a racist, he's a bigot. Well, every single Republican candidate before Trump got the same type of words. I mean, you go back to 2012, 2008. So me seeing that, you kind of have to push that aside and actually look at his actions, and his actions showing that he's actually cares about this country, which I think is, as a president, you have to care about this country. You have to love this country. And to me, it's disappointing that now it's turning into one side loves the flag, loves the Constitution, believes in the American dream, and the other side, to push the political agenda, actually goes against those same things, which is hurting our country. Again, I can compare and contrast with other countries. And again, I think America is the best country in the world. We have to keep it that way. We can't be where we're this kumbaya and everything is great. But then if we lose a sense of culture of America, then there's no country anymore. So I stay strong behind our president. I think what he's doing for our country is great. I think he cares deeply about our country. And he actually showed that you don't have to be a politician to be successful. And that's the reason why, the reason why I decided to run is because I'm not a career politician. I don't want to be a career politician. I'm tired of seeing career politicians who spend, always, all their careers working for the people that always claim, well, we didn't fix something because of somebody else. That's why you need to reelect me. I mean, this is what we have. The current governor, we actually have the same situation. He's been in office almost 8 years now. And he's saying there's a bunch of things that they're not fixed because of somebody else. That's why you need to reelect me. And I believe this is wrong. I think we need term limits. I think our governor should have a term limit. We shouldn't have somebody running for a third term, especially with the current history of what he has done. Our infrastructure in Washington State is graded at C-. We have students who are underperforming in math and science who are not even getting 50% of the grades, the benchmark within our state. We have 21,000 people sleeping on the streets, which almost doubled under his watch. So I say his term is completely unsuccessful. He should resign today.
It seems like one of the big themes of your campaign is socialism versus capitalism. And a lot of people seem like they're losing faith in capitalism. Could you tell us why capitalism is good? Another kind of naive sounding question. I'm sorry.
Well, it's not naive. I think there's there's this trend of saying, well, a lot of people believe capitalism is bad, and they always bring an example of huge corporations that pay zero tax. They never mention that those huge corporations employ thousands of people who are actually earning great amounts of income and are paying taxes. I mean, the number of businesses that are started to support all the employees. For example, Amazon, when before the COVID, Amazon was in downtown Seattle with thousands of people who are going to restaurants, who are going to barbershops. All those businesses thrived. And that's what capitalism is. Capitalism is good because if you look at the top corporations in the world, they all came from America. You look at our state, look at other states, the best companies in the world, the biggest companies in the world, they all came because of capitalism. And now to claim that because, we got to the economic prosperity and our economy is the best in the world, now to claim that capitalism is all of a sudden is bad, I just say, give me a country where its socialism is the number one economic and political agenda, and show me a company that's successful there. There's none. There's absolutely none. And that is because capitalism actually allows us, all of us, to be successful. If you work hard, you can not just earn a living, you can reach the American dream. You can start a startup, a new company, and earn lots of money and be prosperous and hire others as well and share that prosperity. And that's what capitalism allows. It allows to not just enrich yourself, but you're enriching everybody around you. And that's what makes this the best country in the world. That's my answer to why capitalism is good.
And what would be some of your other priorities as governor?
Well, number one is, I'm a big proponent of no income tax. I'm saying when I'm elected, there will be absolutely no income tax. Number two is safety, and safety encompasses many things, including tackling the homelessness crisis, tackling the school shooting crisis that we currently have, tackling the drug addiction crisis, tackling the sanctuary state that are hurting the current neighborhoods today, because and I can go into detail why I think it's hurting the neighborhoods. When I'm elected on day one, I'll end the sanctuary state, because the sanctuary status has been completely turned upside down from what it was originally, which was to protect those illegals who actually report a crime. Today it's being used to let go hardcore criminals who are here illegally back into our society, which is in turn hurting our neighborhoods. And number three is rebuilding the infrastructure. As I mentioned, our infrastructure in Washington State is graded at C-. Our bridges, as you know, are falling apart. Our roads are falling apart. We haven't built any new roads. Our schools are in complete mess. As I traveled the state, there's schools in Washington State that don't have sprinkler systems. They don't have fire alarms. And that's unacceptable. To claim that we live in the best state in the union with huge corporations as headquarters, yet our schools are just crumbling. We need to rebuild the infrastructure in our state, and I intend to do that when elected. I'll work with federal government to find the funds to make sure that the infrastructure is rebuilt, not just in the Puget Sound, but across the state.
And you said you wanted to talk more about the neighborhood issues.
Well, I mentioned sanctuary, right? We're a sanctuary state. Our governor made our state a sanctuary state. Many of our counties and cities claim to be sanctuary. And again, I think that term has been stolen from the original meaning, which was to protect any illegal immigrant who saw a crime, to allow them to call in safely to police and report a crime. That was the original intent of sanctuary city or sanctuary state. What's happening today is we're allowing criminals who are here illegally, who committed hard crimes, sometimes murders, to be let go back into the same societies that we're trying to protect. Number two, we're spending huge amounts of dollars to support that. We have, we're throwing millions of dollars to provide different incentives, from medical support and food stamp support and other cash support to illegals who are here illegally, instead of helping them actually get to become legal and actually turn their lives around. As an immigrant myself, we came here with $400. The best incentive was an opportunity. I'm pretty sure that if we got government handouts, we would still be in the same spot we were at day one, which was nowhere. We didn't have a car. We didn't have a house. We were barely surviving. And one of the reasons why you can be actually very successful in America is actually if you work hard and you're given the opportunity. And that's what I represent. Let's provide the opportunity for everyone to be successful instead of providing the handouts and keeping the neighborhoods poor. What we see today is exactly what's happening. We're providing the handouts, claiming that we're supporting those neighborhoods, but those neighborhoods continue to stay poor because there's no incentive to move into a better life.
So we're almost up on time. Do you have any final thoughts for our listeners?
Final thought is I want to get the message across about socialism. I think it's very important that folks understand that things that are promised for free are never free. We're all paying for it. And to claim that some huge corporations or some millionaires will pay for it, that's untrue. We are in a capitalistic society. Any company that's taxed too much will move to another area. And what you'll end up with is you're stuck with programs that require lots of funding, but you don't have the funding. So to me, I say we can actually make a way better society and improve our lives by focusing on holding all politicians responsible for what they're doing while allowing private entities to be successful, thus supporting capitalism. Socialism will destroy the state. Socialism will destroy this country. There's numerous examples in our history where socialism has destroyed countries, and I can't allow this to occur in this beautiful country. Again, my name is Anton Sakharov. You can take a look at my website, evergreatstate.com. Elections are coming up in just a few days. Make sure you study your voter pamphlet and make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on the show today. All the links will be in the show notes. You've been listening to Talk to Seattle, and I've been your host, Jason Rigdon. If you liked this episode, would you please share it on social media? Most podcast clients have a little share button. Click that and tell people why they should listen. If you want to support Talk to Seattle, would you please give the show a rating and review on iTunes? It really helps new people discover the show, and it makes me happy. Follow Talk to Seattle on Twitter at TalkToSeattle, and email any questions, comments, or suggestions to jasonrigdon@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening.